So friends, the month of August started with Donald Trump's dirty DOJ officials doing favors for Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator and convicted sex trafficker of young girls, Ghislaine Maxwell. But the month of August ended with the Trump-Epstein-Maxwell scandal blowing up in a big way. And we all know there's more to come, because justice matters. Friends, here's a brief recap of the legal stories for the month that was August 2025. So friends, today's question in the Jeffrey Epstein Ghislaine Maxwell case is, did Donald Trump's dirty DOJ political appointees already bestow a benefit on Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, by moving her to a confinement facility that, might be more to her liking? So friends, what's the latest Jeffrey Epstein distraction? Well, Donald Trump's Department of Justice is launching an investigation into who? Well, let's spin the wheel of Trump enemies. We have a winner, former special counsel Jack Smith. So friends, Donald Trump's distraction palooza continues. It was just yesterday that we were discussing the announcement that Trump's DOJ would be opening an investigation into former special counsel Jack Smith. And yet today, we need to spin the wheel again, the wheel of Trump's enemies, to see where it stops. Well, it looks like we have a winner. Today, Trump will desperately be trying to distract the public's attention from the Epstein-Maxwell scandal by announcing an investigation into Barack Obama for the 2016 election. Wait a minute, didn't Trump win that one? I guess any distraction will do in a, sex trafficking storm. So friends, this absurd Donald Trump Pam Bondi reality show continues. This transparent attempt to try to fool the gullible continues. And now we're told there is potentially a big reveal coming, with headlines that now scream, Trump administration considering releasing transcript of DOJ's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Why might Donald Trump's DOJ be considering releasing the interview transcript between Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney Todd Blanche and convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell? Well, how about this headline? Ghislaine Maxwell told DOJ Trump never did anything concerning around her. And friends, they expect us to believe convicted child sex trafficker and indicted perjurer Ghislaine Maxwell? So friends, the Epstein-Maxwell scandal continues to drag Donald Trump down. And we hear Trump flunkies like his former criminal defense attorney Todd Blanche say, we're gonna release the Ghislaine Maxwell interview. Well, pretty much any experienced prosecutor will tell you that before you can believe anything Ghislaine Maxwell says about Donald Trump or anybody else, there's one thing she has to do, and she hasn't.
I'm telling you, independent media, I think, as you know as well, Miles, is the wave of the present, not just the wave of the future.
It is. And actually, look, I would add to that, and I mean this very, very seriously, is, you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, Glenn, but, I faced a decision that I discussed at great length with my wife about whether to go back out there and to be fighting back against this and to be open. And it's a scary thing. And I'll tell you why, because a lot of very intelligent people and great lawyers and folks like that will say, hey, you might be able to avoid further persecution from the president if you lay low. And that's not what we're going to do.
So, friends, Donald Trump continues to lash out at his avowed enemies in a transparent attempt to distract from the ongoing Trump, Epstein, Maxwell scandal. But his attempts at distraction are failing. Might even say they're failing bigly. So, friends, ain't karma a bitch? The judge who tried to do her level best, and not just her level best, her fair, impartial, independent best to get Donald Trump to trial in the case in which a grand jury criminally indicted him for trying to steal the 2020 presidential election from we the people, Judge Tanya Chutkin just caught a new assignment. She will be the judge presiding over a lawsuit seeking the release of, among other things, the Epstein files.
Friends, talk about the mother of all distractions. Today, a federal judge condemned Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's Department of Justice for their conduct in the Epstein litigation, filing those motions to unseal the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury transcripts, with the judge saying that DOJ was using, quote, demonstrably false reasoning and was creating a, quote, diversion, and adding that there's no there. So, Donald Trump needs another diversion. What does he do? He sends soldiers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and seizes control of the local city police department, the D.C. City Cops, MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department. They were my partners in local crime fighting for decades when I was a prosecutor in Washington, D.C. But guess what? We will not be distracted. So let's talk about that federal judge's condemnation of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's Department of Justice.
So, friends, in the latest attempt to distract from the Trump, Epstein, Maxwell scandal, Donald Trump is, 1, sending National Guard soldiers onto the streets of Washington, D.C., 2, seizing control of the local city police department, the D.C. MPD, and 3, taking 120 FBI agents away from their federal investigations and putting them on street patrol duty as if they were rookie police officers. These moves are offensive, disrespectful, dangerous, and dictatorial. So, friends, a federal judge in New York just ordered the Trump administration, DHS, ICE, to, in substance, stop treating detained immigrants inhumanely. That shouldn't require a court order. So, friends, Donald Trump has only had his little dictatorial hands on the DC Police Department for a few days, and he's already threatening to extend his grip on the DC police beyond the statutorily allowed 30 days. You know what's the most important thing to know about this story? DOJ has still not released the Epstein files. That's what this DC power grab is all about. Yet another distraction from the Trump, Epstein, Maxwell scandal. So friends, the people of Washington, D.C., the police department of Washington, D.C., and the leadership of the D.C. city government are all fighting back against Donald Trump's unlawful, unconstitutional, hostile takeover of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, MPD. Let me pivot to your brand new litigation. I think you filed it on Friday in the Epstein-Maxwell matter.
Well, we think that this is a distract. I mean, we think that the president is trying to distract from two things. One, he's now having to distract from the fact that he ran on a conspiracy theory and has not been transparent with people, including his own supporters, on the entire Epstein situation. He's also trying to distract that this administration really has not done anything to make anyone's life better since January. All of the chaos and confusion, all of the shock and awe, yes, we're fighting in the courts, people are fighting on all fronts, but this is not what you need to be doing with your government, right? Your government should be working with the people to govern for the people, to deliver real results for people, and we have not seen that. And so this is catching up with them.
So let me ask this. Where can people find you? How can people support the great work that Free Speech for People is doing?
Well, we're at freespeechforpeople.org, so that's a good place to start. We also have our impeachtrumpagain.org website where we talk about these grounds that I discussed and all the ones that I missed because there are so many. So those are two great places to start, and I would really just urge the folks who care about this, I think everyone who's listening in, to really keep themselves as up to speed as possible with what's happening, but also with what they can do.
Well, friends, yet again, Donald Trump is pushing his dirty DOJ officials to take revenge on Senator Adam Schiff and criminally charge him with something, anything, even though there is exactly zero evidence that Senator Schiff committed any crime. You know, what Donald Trump may not know, but what the attorneys at the Department of Justice surely know, is there is a defense recognized in the law called vindictive prosecution. And that defense is ready-made for any of Trump's announced enemies that Pam Bondi is foolish enough, reckless enough, unethical enough to try to prosecute.
So friends, are you sitting down? Because we've got breaking news. The Trump administration just complied with a federal court order.
So friends, as you may know, in recent weeks, I've been talking quite a bit about the prospect of vindictive prosecutions being brought by Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's dirty DOJ officials. Well, now we have the first court filing on this very topic. It is Abrego Garcia's motion to dismiss his criminal case for vindictive and selective prosecution, and it is one hell of a legal brief documenting and highlighting not just the lawlessness of the Trump administration, but the horrors being perpetrated by Trump and company. So friends, a third federal court judge just told Pam Bondi and her dirty DOJ officials, no, we will not unseal the Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury transcripts. But the judges communicated something else to Attorney General Bondi. In substance, they said, stop playing diversionary games. Stop trying to give the illusion of transparency because you know full well, Pam, that the Department of Justice has the power and the authority to release the Epstein and Maxwell files. So friends, wrongfully deported Abrego Garcia has been fighting Donald Trump's dirty DOJ lawyers and winning at every turn. And although this is far from over, today, Abrego Garcia is a free man. We've been on this trajectory for the first 4 years of our annual gatherings, right? We went from investigations of Trump's crimes to indictments of Donald Trump for his crimes, to trials being scheduled, to one trial being conducted, to him being criminally convicted of 34 felony crimes. And then we just sort of fell off the edge. We fell off the edge. So friends, Donald Trump's dirty DOJ officials are at it again, abusing governmental power and continuing to violate the due process rights of, you guessed it, Abrego Garcia. So friends, remember when Donald Trump filed a lawsuit against all of the federal judges in Maryland? It was when the chief judge of federal district court in Maryland instituted a 2-day pause, a rule of the court designed to prevent the Trump administration from unconstitutionally deporting people. And Donald Trump sued all of the Maryland judges. Well, today, a Trump-appointed judge just threw out Trump's lawsuit, calling it, quote, potentially calamitous, and calling out Donald Trump and his officials for their, quote, concerted effort to smear and impugn individual judges who rule against them. Point of light? I'd call this one a beacon of light amidst the Trump-induced darkness. So friends, here we are again having to talk about Donald Trump's dirty DOJ officials. This time, the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, who just got caught trying to engage in some prosecutorial overreach. She tried to convince a grand jury in Washington, D.C. to indict 2 people in 2 separate cases of felony charges. And the grand jurors, sitting as the conscience of the community, told Jeanine Pirro, no, we will not indict these 2 people on felony charges. Points of light, friends. Points of light. So, friends, Donald Trump continues to try to rewrite history. This time, by having the Air Force give full military honors to Ashley Babbitt, a J6 rioter, an insurrectionist who was shot while trying to climb through a broken window of a door that had been barricaded to protect the lives of the members of Congress as they were being evacuated. Donald Trump is trying to rewrite history, but we won't let him. So friends, remember how Donald Trump's flunky, the D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, engaged in prosecutorial overreach in 2 cases involving protesters, one of whom was the guy who threw the Subway sandwich at a police officer? Recall that the grand jury in both of those cases rejected Pirro's attempt to charge the protesters with felony assault because these weren't felony assaults. Well, we have an interesting update in those 2 cases. And Jeanine Pirro sent her prosecutors in to try to indict a felony assault, which carries a felony assault on a federal officer, which carries up to 8 years in prison for throwing a sandwich. And the grand jury rejected that charge. They said no. And then Jeanine Pirro had her people go on to bring a misdemeanor charge, which does not only carry significantly less potential confinement, it will probably result in a sentence of probation in the event this young man is convicted of a misdemeanor assault on the police officer for throwing a sandwich at him. What's your main takeaway from the fact that under those facts as I related them, Jeanine Pirro decided to send prosecutors into the grand jury to try to secure a felony 8-year in prison indictment?
My takeaway is that it was a political prosecution.
So just because John Bolton, we hit his house and we hit his office with search warrants, doesn't mean he will necessarily be indicted. But what do you see are the implications if he is criminally indicted and now all of this has to be tested in the crucible of a trial?
Yeah, well, and then it's also compounded by the fact that apparently there's, national security related intelligence that's involved, right?
Maybe.
So, maybe. I mean, well, in terms of how they got this search warrant, what's always the tricky part in a national security prosecution is that the government has to lay their cards on the table.
It's for sure. Justice matters. Justice matters. Justice matters now.